Ladies and gentlemen, could you please give a warm welcome to a true Brexiteer, the Right Honourable Priti Patel.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you. Barry, thank you very much for your warm welcome. And let me just start by saying it is an enormous privilege to be here with so many friends today in the Bruges group. And if you don't mind me saying, having spent the entire day in the House of Commons yesterday in the chamber, with, as you've already heard both Graham and John say, with politicians that were focused, many of whom were focused on seeking to undermine democracy in our country and Brexit, it is somewhat refreshing to be here amongst true believers today who believe in democracy and our political freedom, and also who believe in our future outside of the European Union as a free and independent and sovereign nation. So whenever I come here to the Bruges Group, it's fair to say it's not lost on me in terms of what we stand for and also who made this possible. And of course, John, you've just heard from John, had the privilege of working for Margaret Thatcher. But of course, most of us in this room also recall the great speech by Margaret Thatcher outlining her views very clearly, not just on Europe, but also the importance and the strength of individual nation states. And in her words, the different traditions, parliamentary powers, the sense of national pride in one's own country. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what we are still fighting for today. And of course, she promoted Europe as based on respect for national sovereignty and one in which that embraced free markets. And if only they'd listened to her warnings and pursued that approach back then, rather than follow the dogmatic obsession of a federal Europe. And of course, those immortal words that she said, "We have not successfully rolled back the frontiers of the state in Britain, only to see them being reimposed at a European level with a European superstate exercising a new dominance from Brussels." And that, of course, my friends, is exactly the struggle that we are still up against. Those words and that warning are permanently ingrained in all our thoughts. And that is why 17.4 million people turned out in that great referendum that we all campaigned in that greatest show of democracy in our country in June 2016, a vote to leave, which was a vote to take back control. So, of course, as we meet after yet another day in Parliament, yet another extraordinary day in Parliament, I should say, it is just so astonishing to think that there are so many elected politicians, as Graham said, accountable to the public, to electors, to you, who still think that the referendum should be overturned, that that vote to leave meant nothing. You know, let's just give it another go. But of course, despite both the governing and opposition parties standing, and John said this on that manifesto in 2017, promising Brexit, and candidates from those accounting for, from those parties accounting for over 80% of the votes cast, and despite Parliament legislating for the UK to leave in March this year, Brexit is still under threat. And that is a sad reality, a sad and devastating reality of our politics, of the lack of trust in our political processes, and of course, the shameful lack of trust and respect in our democracy as well. And so the hopes and the dreams and the decision of 17.4 million are on the brink. And we all know this, all three of us on this panel, because we are members of Parliament. We knock on doors, we speak to people. We know what our constituents say to us day in, day out. They want MPs to come together and deliver Brexit, to take us out of the European Union and deliver that vote to leave. They say, my constituency, Miss Patel, we did not vote for a withdrawal agreement, we voted to leave. Now go back to Westminster and tell that to your colleagues and make sure we leave on March the 29th. So, those who undermine trust in politics and democracy, why are so many of them trying to block? Too many of them, for far too many of them, it's become a game. It has seriously now become a strategic game to use procedure and convention in the House of Commons, as we've seen, again and again and again, to frustrate Brexit, to defy the will of the people. And for the only purpose is to, of course, keep us in the European Union. You know, a bit like someone that loses a board game but carries on insisting that further games keep rolling the dice until hopefully one of them, something comes in line. That is not how we behave and should be behaving. And of course it hasn't been helped, because let's be clear about this. I say this as someone that was in government not that long ago, until recently. We've seen the government, from the minute they put down the backstop and then the Chequers proposal and then the withdrawal agreement, all these actions have not helped to instill confidence in Brexit or any confidence in the delivery of Brexit. And of course, had none of that have happened, things might have been very different today. So we need to see the government act, of course, positively and swiftly off the back of what we saw yesterday in Parliament. But importantly, address those issues that have been highlighted from the withdrawal agreement, the backstop. And the only thing the government now has to concentrate on, along with parliamentarians, is the guarantee that this country will be ready to leave the EU on March the 29th with that deal, and in a way in which respects the Brexit referendum and is in our national interest. But on top of that, we ourselves have something very positive to do. And we've heard from John already. You know, we've heard about Project Fear. You can boo at that point. We've heard about the food shortages. You know, this week, I think the latest thing was lettuces as well will be in short supply. I mean, how ridiculous is that? And these comments are insulting. They are insulting to the good nature of the British public. They insult our intelligence across the generations and across our country. It doesn't matter where you live in Britain. People voted to leave, and that should be the only focus in delivering that future prospect, not just to leave, but to ensure that we are sticking up for democracy and our political and economic freedoms, and ensuring at every single level we deliver that referendum mandate. So I think we must do more than showcase and reiterate all that is wrong with the EU. We do that anyway. And in fact, they do it for us. They do it for us. Every time when they say no to Britain, every time when they belittle our Prime Minister, every time when a leader from another European country, not that far away but across the water, you know, belittles our great country, our great nation, something we would never do back in return, and yet we sit back and take it. We have to give the British public confidence that Britain will make a success and can make a success of its future outside of the European Union. We need to show the British people that, of course, it has a bright and prosperous future outside, as John said, as a beacon of free global trade, a country that is open to markets, to our friends in the Commonwealth and growing and emerging countries around the world. And we must embrace the fact that by the middle of this century, Europe's share of the global economy, it's not going up, it's going to fall. It will fall below 10%. And it will keep on falling. So instead of being bound by the protectionist trade policies for 10% of the world economy, we can work to open up 90% of the global economy for business, investment and jobs. And that would be great for Britain. And it's not just on trade where we stand to benefit. We stand to be in a strong position where we can take back control of our policies, and we've touched on that already, a whole raft of policies and regulations. We can fix what's wrong with the common fisheries policy and have our own national fishing policy. We can protect our environment, boost our fishing industry. We can keep foreign vessels that pillage our fish stocks out of our waters. But that's not all. We speak about investment around the country and think about various economies, the regional economies. We have devolution in this country. We need to create a renaissance of the regions and have a series of effective policies supporting investment in jobs, infrastructure, growth, no longer strangled by the EU, but can actually enhance and grow our economy around the UK. The list can go on and on. So this, my friends, is a national mission, and it's a national mission of optimism and hope, and it's a national mission where we know that we can deliver not just the hopes and aspirations and the dreams of the 17.4 million people who voted to leave, but actually that we have a future for our country. And that means we need our government now to believe in Britain and believe in Brexit. It means that we need to use this period as an opportunity to put us on that national mission and drive that political and economic renewal that we all want to see. And political renewal will of course enhance and support our democracy. So we can say no to the naysayers, no to the people over the road that John, Graham and myself sit with and see every day that want to deny our democratic freedoms and want to undermine democracy and trust in democracy. So the next few weeks are crucial in our politics, but also crucial for our freedom and democracy. So we need to set ourselves on that path towards freedom and success and show that we believe in a positive agenda, but also show our country that we can be better than the naysayers and the gloom mongers portray us, because we do believe in our country. And I also believe that with this government, we can drive them forward now to deliver that exit on March the 29th this year. Thank you.